Okay, what we're going to be doing right now is some factoring by grouping. And in this problem, you see that we're starting with a quadratic. And to factor by grouping, one of the first requirements is that the equation equals 0. So I'm going to add 13x to both sides. And now that the equation equals 0, I'm ready to begin. I want to label my A equals B equals C equals. And then I'm going to draw big X. I'm going to draw it right below the equation. And A times C in this case would be negative 60. And then B is 7. So now I'm looking for factors of 60 that add or subtract to be 7. Because this is a negative, then I know my factors are going to be a positive negative or a negative positive. Because B is positive, my bigger factor will be positive. The factors I'm looking for are positive 12 and negative 5. 12 times negative 5 equals 60. 12 minus 5 equals 7. Now I'm going to bring down the original equation, and I'm rewriting what I had before, except I'm taking this 7x and I'm splitting it into 12x minus 5x. So I got that 12x minus 5x from my big X. Then I'm bringing down the C term. Minus 3 equals 0. And at this stage, what you should have is the same equation as the one that you set equal to 0. The only difference is the B term, the linear term, is split. So now, instead of positive 7x like I had above, I have 12x minus 5x, which is the same as 7x. The next step is to factor out the greatest common factor from the first two terms. So I have a 20x squared and a 12x. If I just look at the coefficients, the greatest common factor between 20 and 12 is 4. And because they both have an x, x is also a common factor. 20x squared divided by 4x is 5x. And I can confirm that by saying 4 times 5 is 20, x times x is x squared. 12x divided by 4x is 3. And I can confirm that by saying 4x times 3 is 12x. You have a negative right here, you bring that negative down. And the common factor between 5x and 3 is simply a 1. Negative 5x divided by negative 1 is positive 5x. And I could confirm that by saying negative 1 times 5x would get me this negative 5x. Negative 3 divided by negative 1 is positive 3. I'm going to remember my equals 0. At this stage, I want to take the greatest common factor out of each factor, out of each part of the equation. So I have a 5x plus 3 that's common to this and to this part. So I'm going to factor out 5x plus 3. And since this was 4x times 5x plus 3, when I factor out the 5x plus 3, I am left with a 4x. And since this was negative 1 times 5x plus 3, when I factor out the 5x plus 3, I'm left with a negative 1. And those are the factors. So what we've accomplished so far is we've taken the original expression, we set it equal to 0, we used big X to be able to effectively split our linear term, then we factored by grouping the first two terms and the second two terms. Then, if these are going to work, they always have this binomial in common. I factored out the common binomial, the greatest common factor, and I took the other factor and put it in parentheses and set them equal to 0. Since the direction said to solve for x, I now need to set each of these individually equal to x. I'm going to come back up to the top here and do that again, and do that work up here. So I took this factor, 5x plus 3, and I set it equal to 0. I'm taking this factor, 4x minus 1, and I'm setting that equal to 0. And here, I subtract 3 from both sides. Then to solve for x here, I divide both sides by 5. I get x equals 3 over 5 as one of my solutions. Here, I add 1 to both sides. And I divide by 4. These are my solutions. You know what? That's a negative 3. Let's go back to that one. I subtracted 3 from both sides. So I got 5x equals negative 3, and x equals negative 3 over 5. These are my solutions. And these are the two x values that make that very original equation true. I had originally 20x squared minus 6x minus 3 equals, was it negative 13x originally? And these are the two solutions that would make that true.